but it's real relaxed. I
Yeah.
mean, we're just here to have a quick conversation and whatnot.
Absolutely.
I don't think I've ever had a really long conversation with you.
No, probably. I mean,
Yeah.
other than coffee talk, you know?
Enter, like, running through the cafe. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so to start this off, I would like to introduce you. Eddie Crosby, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me, Caleb. Yeah, man.
I mean, it's kind of difficult to get you on here. I feel like I had to hunt you down for a while. So I appreciate you taking some time out of your day.
Yeah, well, this is my busiest time of year for like my day job with Edmonton. And learning technology sales. So I'm the senior partnership manager for South Carolina. So you've got the first quarter, right, which you're doing all the pre-sale stuff, but now's the buying season. So from like May to August, I'm on the road 3 to 4 days a week. So that's why you hadn't really seen me much in the coffee shop.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just varies. Like I canvass pretty much the state of South Carolina, and I have a partner, and then we have some service team members that work with us. So for the territory, she has half the state and I have half the state. So there's about 81 school districts in South Carolina. So, you know,
That's a good amount.
they're decreasing because they're doing consolidation, right? Like if Dorchester 2 and Dorchester 4 were to ever merge into one consolidated school district for the county, they would be Dorchester County School District, right? But right now that's, you know, not on the table from what I understand. It's, you know, it's going to operate business as usual.
So you do a lot of stuff with the educational system.
Yeah, I was a public educator for almost 20 years. So
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Quick story. Graduated from Carolina with a business degree in 99. Worked 2 years in corporate America for a hydraulic pump and motor company called Parker Hannifin. They had a subsidiary in Columbia called Carolina Fluid Air, which basically they are the manufacturer and then they sell through, you know.
Channels.
Correct. So, and I'm like, because I paid my way through school as a tutor and coach, right? So I worked at a community center there in Columbia, and I really missed it. And I came home one Christmas, and I told mom and dad that, hey, I think I want to be a teacher. They're like, you have lost your daggone mind. But I
feel
went
like it's
back to school.
appropriate.
Yeah. I went back to school and started teaching in '01 through the South Carolina Critical Needs Program. So if you have a college degree, they'll get you your teaching certification and take some education courses for like pedagogy and, you know, classroom management and so forth. And so I did that and started teaching and coaching in Lex Rich 5 and Irmo. We're at Irmo Dutch Fort Chapin School District, right?
Okay.
Up there. So did that for 7 years, and then I got my master's degree because I thought,
Whoa.
you know, getting married, want to start a family, you know, so make some money in the admin ranks, and then there was the big, you know, budget cuts, housing crisis of 07, 08, remember?
Yeah, yeah.
And I told Jenny, I was like, I think I'm being called into the ministry. She's like, what? So I did this little sabbatical. So I left public ed to do some ministry work to basically use sports as a vehicle to share Christ with kids and families.
It's a good avenue.
And so we did some short-term mission stuff, and we had our first son, Ward, and Jenny was like, okay, I want to go home. So home was here. She's from Sunrail too. And we were pregnant with Marley. So we moved here, and Marley was born in September of '08. And then I started working. I got hired on as assistant principal in Charleston County School District. So then worked there for the net, and in Dorchester 2, came back by this time. A couple of kids later, now we're at 4 kids. And Dorchester 2, Jenny was like, I need you closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, finished up there in, 17. So I've been with, 18. So I've been with Edmonton now 17 years.
Wow.
Or excuse me, 7 years, not 17.
Okay, I was
Good
like, man,
Lord,
my math
excuse
is
me.
terrible.
Yeah. So yeah, 18, and then 25. Yeah. So year 7 with Edmentum. Started on the consulting service side, and then moved over to sales, and then promoted a couple years ago to the senior partnership manager.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are you selling?
So our main piece is curriculum.
Oh.
All right, so digital curriculum that's South Carolina state standards aligned, K through 12, right? And then we have supplemental tools for intervention and support, like for ELA, Math, Science, and Social Studies, to grow kids.
Okay.
Like with Exact Path, that's our signature, growth tool. And then Study Island is one of our cornerstone solutions for proficiency. So the growth piece that we develop, right? So there's an algorithm. You have an assessment, and it puts you on a learning path, and then you grow and learn, and it adjusts based off your responses.
That's
right?
pretty cool.
Very cool. And then Study Island is more teacher driven. So the kids are on or above grade level, so they're using it for test prep and for enrichment. But with all those things, and what I tell people all the time, is that nothing replaces quality teaching. There's no silver bullet, right? You're always going to have a quality person, right? Building those relationships, because you think back, your mind's probably going right now thinking about, oh man, that one teacher, or that one assistant principal, or that one coach that saved my butt, or that helped me get over the hump, so to speak. And these are just tools to support teaching and learning.
Makes
right?
sense.
So, and I also share, right, that the tool is only as good as the person trained to use it. So we partner, and we have to partner with these folks to make sure that they're best, right? Because we're as vested as they are, and to make sure that they're delivering quality instruction, right, to our kids. So yeah, it's fun, man. Love it.
It is funny that you called me out on that, because I was immediately thinking about the teachers. I'm like, oh man, I have a few that I very specifically remember.
Yeah.
And funny, because a lot of it's not always a subject that I thought I'd care about. It's just the teacher was fun and just taught in a way that was easy for my brain to pick up, and I just latched on easily. Like one was American history,
right,
which now I enjoy. I don't really keep up with it that much, but I do enjoy it. And the other one, obviously, for me was an art teacher. That was that's a given. But likewise, I immediately came up with other teachers that I had dealt with that super smart in their field, but couldn't communicate well with the kids. And so, like, for calculus, I'm like, I could have got calculus.
right,
But the teacher did not communicate well, and I gave up halfway. And she didn't even care afterwards. It was like I came in, and I was just like a person that we just caught up
right,
about, like, movies and stuff. And now looking back, at the time, I was like, sweet, I don't have to worry. I'm going to fail the class, but I've already passed all my other math. I don't need this. Now I wish I had, obviously, had a little bit more fire in my butt so I could, like, learn it.
Sure.
I mean, not ever use calculus, but the understanding and the learning is always so important. And something, it's easy, because we have, when I was in school, we had the smart
boards.
Smart boards that just started kicking in, so half the time it didn't even work. But at the same time, the tools were there.
Right.
And it is interesting now that you pinpoint that it's not always just about what you can do, although it does help give them more opportunity to express themselves a little bit easier and connect with the kids. But it's an important job. It's hard. The only thing I have in relation to teaching is art classes.
Oh.
So.
Well, you get it. And again, you nailed it. You talked about that personal connection. And that's why the electives and the arts, right, are so important, because the kids that may not gravitate towards the core, right, science, ELA, math, social studies, they may not click, but that art teacher or that music teacher or that, shop teacher or engineering or computer science will hook that student right in, and then help them, because the math folks think a little different and deliver everything's black and white. Where art folks and literature folks, there's a lot of gray.
There's a lot of gray.
So, that's who, I tend to gravitate towards too. And again, equipping those folks, because the two things teachers need more of is time and money. Well, I can't do anything about the money, but I can give them time to maximize their resources, and then come alongside to show them how to implement some of these tools and strategies to then fine tune their game, just like any coach. Like we were talking about golf earlier.
Yeah.
Right? Your golf coach tweaks a little bit here, hand, thumb, feet, same kind of thing in education. Hey, here's a little solution for your lesson plans, and try this delivery, this different modality for the different learning styles. It may be audio, it may be visual, it may be,
Absolutely.
And that's just what we do. And again, truly see ourselves as a coach and partner with public schools.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Often that little tweak is a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially with golf.
Yeah, no kidding.
With the kids, have you figured or learned any tricks, not so much from maybe working with the teacher so much as about your time as a teacher, outside of just like tools and curriculum, like behavioral maneuvers? Because I know like a lot of times teachers will have to deal with actions or kids that are kind of tough to deal with, and likewise the parents are kind of difficult. I do have several friends that are teachers, and some of the horror stories I've heard, I was like, man, you definitely don't get paid enough for your job.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, again, when I was certainly as an assistant principal, that's primarily what I was dealing with, is discipline 24/7. So you try to put in the structure, and, because kids thrive off of structure and organization as much as we fight it, right? And the discipline on the proactive side, right? Some of the preventative things, and building into those, what I consider like into that positive deposit into the emotional bank account, right? So then when you do have to lay the hammer, so to speak, because obviously corporal punishment is faded from my time, then probably early mid-90s when that started to dissipate. And I think we've erred too much to, everybody gets a trophy. I don't agree with that either. There's a happy medium. So again, setting the boundaries, setting the parameters and structure, right? But then honestly, Caleb, the biggest difference between a successful classroom management or, discipline management system, multi-tiered support system, right, is not only setting the framework, but holding the line, holding the standard, right? And you building these relationships along the way, and communicate that, there, if A, then B, if B, then C, D, but adhering to those, because just like parenting, right? If you don't follow through, then the kid knows, Dad really didn't mean that. Or same thing, my teacher didn't really mean that. And I think one of the other issues, I think if we get back to holding that hard line in public ed, we reclaim the order in the classroom and in the schools, because, one of the things I think, meaning, right, the teacher, you see these discipline issues, and I'm not saying you suspend kids, but now if COVID's taught us anything, is we can reimagine education, because there's all types of delivery options, right? Virtual, hybrid, traditional, charter, private, whatever the modality may be for that delivery. Every kid has an opportunity to learn that best suits their needs. So there are options, right? And again, in the actual classroom, being able to deliver to meet the needs of the students. And again, going back to, what I do is really we help build school around the student, right? And that's the focus. Everybody learns different. So same principle applies through the discipline, right? So there are consequences. Hey, you can't behave like that here, but there are alternatives for you. right? We're not saying we give up. We're not saying we're going to put you out, expulsion, because that's not doing anything positive or productive, but building a pipeline to incarceration and
Yeah.
the prison system. And we're not doing that, right? But again, there has to be that firm, hard line in discipline and consequences, right? And I'm not talking like punitive in the sense of like physical,
Right.
but I'm talking about, yeah. And yes, there are parents that, oh my God, because they some want educators to be everything to everybody, but then once they make a decision that the parent disagrees with, then it's, oh my God, you can't do that to my kid. You can't have it both ways, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have that structure and that order and that discipline in order for the majority of the students in the classroom to thrive, not just survive. And I think I think we're going to get more teachers to enter the profession by holding that line and say, okay, and creating that pipeline. Hey, because you and I, as we're talking, we're thinking about that. And that's why I went into the business, because there were such influential people that I can give you by name from first grade to college and grad school.
Absolutely.
That I can tell you that was those people and the relationships, the healthy relationships that were formed, and then of course along the way there were some teachers you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
But then that's also a learning experience so that you could know and see how not to do it, right? And share that wisdom with, others, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I was as an administrator, I was always talking, and you could, talk to the teachers that I worked for and with and say, I'm not going to coach you out. I need you. I'm going to coach you up, right? I'm not here to get rid of you, right? Unless if you don't want to be here, same as a student, I'm going to coach you to the next grade level, to graduation, to the career or college readiness. If I'm not doing that, I need to pick another profession. Same thing. If I'm not doing the same thing for the teacher, then I need to be finding something else to do. So
that's a really good sense. And you can transfer that to real life at any stage. Like the discipline is, I think almost now more than ever, very difficult to find. And I don't know, I'm not a teacher, so I don't know how much it goes, but you see a lot on social media, the lack of discipline all the time. People more willing just to like veg out for an entire day. Learning from a teacher or someone who should be or can be a role model and is trying to give you your own tools to grow. It sucks as a kid having that discipline put upon you, but it is so influential and so nice to have as an adult when you're like, oh, wow, I'm so glad I went through that. Because that makes this way easier. It's easier to succeed, to follow through, to put into effect an effective plan. And so, like, looking back, like, sometimes I wish I had gone into the military just to have better control and discipline and whatnot. My flat feet wouldn't have enjoyed it, but I think the mental part would have been really nice to get that hard, no bullshit kind of lesson.
Oh, dude. Yeah, 1,000%. And again, talking about the support and carrying that on through the hierarchy, right? So if the teacher makes a decision, right, then that has to be backed up and followed through by the administration, then by the district administration, then by the school board, so that the parent can't keep, hopscotching up till they get the answer that they want. This is, as difficult as this is, right? Hey, that is the rule. Otherwise, it would be chaos, right? Look at society, and you see these videos with, in social media, these kids hitting teachers and students, and and again, I think obviously I'm very thankful with what I'm about to say, that we have SROs in the classroom, in the schools, not the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when we moved away from the corporal punishment, and again, there was reasons for that because there was abuse and there were problems. But that was a turning point in public ed because then you started to lose some of that authority. And
Good point.
And even still, I mean, the last thing that you want is a kid being arrested and having that on his or her record. But if they commit a criminal act, and again, we grew up in a time, me probably more so than you, where group of guys would go hunting before school and then had the shotgun sitting on the back windshield, window in their gun rack. Mm-hmm. And the thought of a gun coming to school was not even like, I mean, that just wasn't even nobody even thought about that, right?
Yeah.
And now, you got kids walking in through metal detectors, right?
It is
and because
wild.
there was a breakdown, right? And I think that the ultimate parameters for that, right, structure and discipline is the nuclear family, right? Mm-hmm. And that's key. And again, there's circumstance, and we could spitball, but that absolutely is a factor and helps with that, societal order, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I started to see a major shift when I graduated high school back in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
There were, I think, more frequent shootings and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I got out right before they built it, because I went to Somerville High. Right before
same.
They built the whole gate and everything, because it was just wide open. You could come and go whenever you wanted. I skipped lunch all the time. You can't do that now. It's all locked up.
Right.
When you hear some of the stories, it's wild, but at the same time, like you said, it's like, well, this is just kind of how things ended up going based upon the choices that were made and the gray areas that were provided.
Yeah. And we kept moving the line to say, slap on the wrist, go back to class, And we didn't do it ourselves any favors.
Well, yeah, I guess you live and you learn, right?
Yeah. And hopefully what I am seeing, I'm encouraged tremendously because, you're seeing folks realizing this all across the state and even here locally and across the nation, enough is enough, and this is in order to be, the global leader, right? In so many areas, we need to get back to basics.
Yeah,
so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So not too much of a change, but in the same realm, I think.
Yeah, sure.
To switch a little bit, in the same sense that you work in a lot in the educational system, which is a big part of the community, you also are part of our local community.
Yeah, local government. Yeah.
Yeah. So how has some of your educational upbringing and background helped with working with the community? Is it parallel at all? Is there anything? Or is it just totally different?
I mean, it dovetails in beautifully. So when I left, quote, the traditional public ed to work in ed tech, I was approached, hey, man, I think you would be a couple of buddies here in town. I think you should consider public service and running for office, and I would always, like everybody, complain about government, and Jenny, my wife, she would say, "Well, you get involved, do something." Mm-hmm. And to hear her tell the story is a little more humorous than how I'm telling it, but she thought I would just join some board or committee. She didn't expect me to run. But the guy that held the seat, he ran for the state house, got elected, so there was a vacant. There was still 2 years to fill the county council seat in 2018. Mm-hmm. So there was a special election, right? Ran unopposed. There was an appointment from Governor McMaster, which then had to have another special election in 2019. 2019. And the guy ran unopposed, and then completed that 2-year term, and then ran in 2020 unopposed, got elected, and ran again in 2024. So And again, thankfully,
All over the place.
unopposed, because they either say you're running unopposed or you're running scared. So, as they say in the world, but try to implement some of those same, again, being personable, relatable, right? When people call them back, listen. Right, because you still dealing with those same folks that you dealt with in the public ad. Now, instead of the kids' parents, I'm dealing with the kids. Right now, they're young adults or adults with their own families. And again, even my own children are like, "Dad, why are you doing this?" And I said, "Well, honestly, Somerville and Dorchester County has meant so much to me growing up. Right,
Love that.
I said, guys." I'll never forget. We were literally going to the pool at Myler, Somerville Country Club, yeah. And this was 6 years ago, so everybody was younger, and I said, you know how we go camping all the time, and Dad always says, hey, look, we're gonna leave this campsite better than we found it.
Yes.
So if there's any extra. That's the goal, right? So trying to work and build, consensus and, teams and collaboration, to get more done working together than working against one another, whether that be with my colleagues in the municipalities at the town of Somerville, St. George, Harleyville, Ridgeville, or working with other counties, Berkeley, Charleston, right? And building those friendships and relationships, because we could certainly get a lot more done working together, right? Than we can working against one another. And again, employing some of those same strategies, Caleb, like, okay, look, we have to operate under a, structure with, a shared mission, vision, right? And so we have a strategic plan that we're working towards for growth and infrastructure and water and sewer and roads and all those things, right?
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And then, bring that down from the macro level to, the municipalities working with urban growth boundaries so that we're helping to limit sprawl. And, because for so long it happened so fast, some of my predecessors, in both the county government and the municipalities, right? It was like, holy cow. But having that strategic plan 15, 20, 30 years out, because people are all the time like, Eddie, what are you doing to limit growth, right? How, you can't stop it, but how can you better manage it and control it? And so some of the things that we're doing now, man, is super cool. And it's been a long time coming. It's been a long process, right? Because we're trying to catch up and get ahead at the same time. So, doing things like, we got some impact fees coming, right, for these developers. And like I mentioned, the urban growth boundaries to say, right, if you're outside, because if you're building and throwing darts in the country, so to speak, then you're putting more cars on the road. You're putting more, but let's put these urban growth boundaries that are aligned to the comprehensive plan. So, and get these municipalities, primarily, obviously, the town of Somerville, right? So as the town goes, the county goes, and right. So working together, and I feel, and in my time, we have as good a working relationship as we've ever had.
That's awesome.
Picking up the phone, having the conversations, whether they're tough or, hey, we're in, but having those so we can do the urban infill, right? And it's not about always building more roads, but what can we do to actually get folks off the road, meaning more bike and walker friendly, right? And you and I both, we're big bikers. We love, to ride around, and or even on my kids with their little electric scooters now, big,
Yeah, they are.
So making it safe, right?
Yeah.
And doing the sidewalks and that bike lanes. And so you see all this stuff happening and people are like, oh, I'm sitting in traffic. And I am too, right? So, but we've got things in the hopper. And then, of course, speaking of roads, right? Ultimately, right now you see North Maple, right? The Nexton Parkway. That's going to be Berlin Myers. Just
Beautiful.
yeah, and what it's done for 17A. Even getting now, I'm okay with my kids. We live right off of Simmons Avenue, right there, nearest James Allen Park.
Yes.
I'm okay with them now taking their scooter or their bike over to play golf or go to the pool, right? Because there's not that heavy. Now, some folks may disagree with me, but
perspective.
But again, you finish North Maple, right? You have that Parsons and Parsons and Central is going to be opened up 3 to 5 lanes with sidewalks, and then Orangeburg will be 5 lanes, 3 to 5 in certain sections, again to truly create that bypass around Somerville. So
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah, and it helps with public safety and getting folks to the interstate. Heaven forbid we don't have another Hugo, but getting people off the roadways, right? And providing that pedestrian friendly, because they'll have sidewalks and there'll be bike lanes and the medians in the middle, and But there again, the big thing I probably learned more, Caleb, than I've ever wanted to know is in water and sewer.
Oh.
Controls everything.
Really?
Right? Oh, man. Because Mayor Touchberry said, dilution is the solution to pollution.
That's a tongue twister.
Yeah, it is, totally. And so, again, talking about managing and, growth, right? And the rooftops and working in these urban growth boundaries where there is already access. Even still, I say that, I know to say this publicly on this podcast, right? We, for the next 10 to 15 years, what we have on the books and coming online, we're at capacity. So and mainly for sewer, right? Because we just got a new water reach from Lake Marion with the help of bipartisan, Democrats and Republicans. Jim Clyburn was a big help for helping get that reach from Lake Marion through Orangeburg to serve both Dorchester and Berkeley counties and Orangeburg. So that was huge for fire, for water up in the St. George and even down into Ridgeville, Somerville. That just absolutely massive, man. But there again, the sewer. What are you going to do with the waste? How are you managing the waste?
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. And so, these developers, they're like, oh, man, no, we can do this. We can do. Okay, you can, but you don't. You will have to also build additional wastewater treatment. You have to improve pump stations, and you will have to incur that cost. It can't be on the taxpayer. And so now that's the difficult conversations having, and again, going back to the education piece, going back to what you originally said, having that plan, that structure, that organization, that template, and then having the discipline to have those hard conversations and to say, no, we can't, right? And that's one of the things. I just was appointed chair of the PDB, which is Planning, Development, and Building.
Nice, congratulations.
So, well, thanks, man. But that's the other than the chairman of council, right? That's the next big. So all the development, all the planning, all the water, sewer, all that comes through PDB. So it's been a lot and a crash course. Thankfully, I was on the committee prior to being appointed to the chair, but so I was able to get some work, working with my colleagues and hands-on experience, so to speak, and then going through the chamber, the South Carolina Department of Commerce. They do what's called the South Carolina Economic Development Association. SCEDA is kind of the nickname.
It has to be an acronym.
Dude, that's another thing. With government, whether it's education or, local government, all the acronyms. There are more, the ABCs and, so.
Like a Rolodex.
Golly. But that was awesome because you got to see from a state perspective. And our chairman currently, David Chennis, is talking about, with the South Carolina Association of Counties. Land management and development is going to be a big push coming from the state association to make sure that we're good stewards. Back to the original reason why I got involved is to make sure that I leave it better than I found it. And I'm not looking to make a career out of this thing. I think that
you're doing a good job, so you've
thanks,
screwed
man.
yourself.
As far as term limits, there may be one more run, and then hand the baton off to the next guy or gal. But that's 2028. Who knows what the future holds, and Lord willing,
I know.
We get there, but that's kind of.
I mean, the exponential growth is fascinating. By 2028, who knows?
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, it's
Wow.
incredible. Couple questions.
Sure.
One, the expansion, the roads.
Oh yeah.
What's a ETA for those bad boys? Or realistically, what
Sure.
can we expect?
Yeah, I can give you a timeline. So we just had. I'll start with North Maple, right? Because that's the closest one to being completed. Right.
Yeah,
here,
that's
the
one
next
in the middle of being worked on, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
I drive
by
through it all the time.
Yeah. And what's super exciting there is that new. Well, I say new in terms of coming on the market. That Inner 4 site where the sawmill was, right
Yes.
there. All right. So that's 60 acres on this side, the Somerville side of 78. And then there's another 20 acres.
Oh.
So if you're coming
That's
from the
huge.
railroad tracks and Inner 4 is on your left, you go over 78. There's another 20 acres there. So we're just in the, again, discovery phase because, again, this has all come about with the mill closing. Backstory to that is the U.S. overall has done a good job, and especially in South Carolina, for their forestry management.
Oh.
So there's a surplus of timber. That's why you see it's bad for, quote, business, so to speak, because the paper mill in Georgetown's closed. This one's closed, and they're consolidating their manufacturing, their, industry because there's a demand. Because, again, kudos to those folks and the environmental groups. They've done a better job with the forestry and keeping, the sustainable resource, right? Not just clear cutting,
Right.
that you heard about in the 80s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, that said, Caleb, back to your original question, should be completed spring. I'm giving it of 26. There's been a massive issue with when you talk about infrastructure, right? Utilities, power, and water sewer lines anyway. And again, we're looking to finish that road in concert with the town and DOT. So that would be the closest one. We just had a public hearing at Austin Bailey Middle School, or elementary school, excuse me, for the Parsons. So once you cross the railroad tracks, then it becomes Parsons and goes into Central, right? So we're getting public input to say, hey, public, what is your thoughts? 3 lanes, 5 lanes?
Oh,
and
wow.
My thought behind that is prepare for 5. Go ahead and build. But then again, you think, what do we do? Because, today's dollars is exponentially more, in 10 years, right? So let's plan for that. And again, do that not with a sledgehammer, but with a scalpel, right? And meaning what I'm saying is, talk with the community because you would have to get, easements and condemn property and sell, buy,
the houses are close.
The houses that are right on the road and people that have lived there for decades, right? Do they want to sell or can they afford to move? And so you have to balance all that and adjust the road. So I say that would probably be shovel ready in about 2 years. But with our sales, thanks to the community, and that we extended the penny for the road sales tax.
Oh, yeah.
Not a new tax, but a continuation, right? So again, the money's obviously that varies with inflation, but you've got the finances to then go on to the next project and work these things through. But that's going to be the real game changer. Then moving from Central Parsons to Orangeburg, right? That's going to be so. Ultimately, would love to see that 3 to 5 lanes as well. And I say 3 lanes because the Red Hill community right there as you come off of Dorchester to turn on to Orangeburg on that side of 17A, right? That community. Historically black community that has been there for centuries, right? And they're a very proud group. And one of my best friends in high school, his dad still lives there. A guy by the name of Roddy, we call him as Roderick. Now he's a barber in Detroit, but that guy and his family and their entire family has been there for years. And they're like, hey, if you make that 5 lanes, we're going to lose a lot of our homes. So we had a public community meeting at that little church right there on Orangeburg, up the Red Hill area. Oh, yeah. Clay Hill. I always get that confused area, but or maybe Red Top. Forgive me.
I have no idea. So.
There's a little nickname for that community, and there's lovely people. They're so, and again, Roderick and I when we went to school at Give-Ans, right? Not when it was the alternative school, but when it was the elementary school. But anyway, making that section 3 until you get past wastewater treatment and 217A, and then opening it up to 5. And then as we're going to Mallard, right, because Berkeley County is going to meet us coming from the Jedburgh exit.
Yep.
Right? That's going to be 5 lanes. So it'll be a nice evacuation route. But what we're also kicking around, Caleb, is taking it on down Orangeburg past the airport.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Maybe do 3 lanes there to expand that because there's going to be some industry coming there to get it to 78, 3 lanes. So there may be a, opening and then widening and then back to the 3 lanes on down that. But you're talking some major road improvements in the next 3, 5, 10 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And that really helps with traffic flow. And,
immensely.
And then that's not even talking about other road projects on the horizon in concert with Charleston County, coming down 61 and, coming through the Sand Hill area and out to 95 and, the Paul Cantrell, right? Getting out of West Ashley. All those things are on the table and, just super exciting. Working in concert with our friends and neighbors in Berkeley and Charleston County.
I mean, you have to. You're going to do no good if you just fix a small little...
Right.
I mean, in terms of
You can't work in silos. No.
Yeah, exactly. Like for me, my brain immediately went to painting. Like if I focus in too much detail on one little spot, then I scope out and I'm like, oh, what did I do here? It has it does not correlate to this so well. So... that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, man.
It's also really exciting.
It is. I
mean, I don't really plan on going anywhere, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And again, people are like saying, and you and I both, we're also, you and I are sitting in this traffic. It's not like I'm, scooting around like the Jetsons,
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. And so I want it as badly as the next guy or gal, to improve our safety, security, quality of living, movability, accessibility, right? All throughout, because then that helps drive economics and, businesses. And I mean, everything improves when you have the proper infrastructure, and it's coming, and I think not the first time, but a first time in the sense of an organized plan working collaboratively with our municipalities and partners to say, hey, this is where we're going, and having the funding and the support to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's important.
Yeah.
The growth of Somerville, was that unexpected? Did we have a huge shift of people? Because now we're trying to play catch up, as you said, and prep for the future. So what happened?
Yeah.
Or did we just were we a sleepy town for a while and missed the ball?
Yeah, I mean, the secret's out, right? Somerville, I think I was just heard that it has been voted the one of the number one or the number one.
Oh boy.
Yeah, suburbs in the country. Yeah, but here's the thing, Caleb. What drove that? Give a shout out to my educator friends and colleagues and the schools. People, for the longest time were like, man, the schools, in Dorchester County, Dorchester too, been the crown jewel of the Low Country for so long, and they still are producing quality. And obviously Berkeley and Charleston have been taking note, and up in their game as well. And of course, as the news got out, and then of course with digital media, social media, that helped really light the fire. Like, man, this is great. What makes this place so special? And again, I think, to complement the schools are the people, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you want to stay. I mean, we get to hang out, see each other quite often in the coffee shop, and the people you meet around town. I mean, there is really no place I've ever been, I'm sure you could probably say, or at least very few places around the country or even the globe that you've been to that is as friendly and, community, family oriented as Somerville. I think we've got some work to do, certainly, to drive business more, internally, right, in the historic district. And I know there's some blowback with that because people want to keep things the same. But I think, again, it's managing the growth and the expectations. And, with that being said, because you don't want to die, either you're green and growing or ripe and rotting. So we want to be growing with and competing with the Nextons and the Carnes Crossroads and the Goose Creeks and the West Ashleys and the Hanahans, right? Mm-hmm. Because we don't want to be left behind. And, I think, again, the leadership at the town and working with the county to say, hey, make sure we're looking and planning in that inner foresight.
Yeah.
Instead of, the easy thing would just to be resell that as industry and make that a big box.
Yep.
Right? But is that the best for the town of Somerville? And can the town of Somerville grow down Richardson into the inner four and that be the railroad district, rail yard,
That'd be cool.
And then you have another boutique hotel or two with retail, restaurant, commercial, right? So then downtown grows into that area. But then some of the things, 500 North Main, where the county building is now, working with the town to redevelop that to be retail, restaurant, residential, boutique hotel, right? And then grow in that urban growth, right? Because you never know. You got the Dominion site by the railroad tracks. What other properties pop up? But if they're planned and managed well, see case in point Spartanburg. Greenville's been knocking it out of the park, right, with their Reedy River and redeveloping their downtown. Spartanburg's doing the same thing now, doing a great job. This guy, Alan Smith, he's the CEO of One Spartanburg. It's kind of like, imagine if the Chamber and Dream and some of these other entities came under one.
Oh, wow. That's like a powerhouse.
Corporation.
Yeah.
Right? That's what One Spartanburg did. And Alan's the CEO and working with the city of Spartanburg as well as Greer, because Greer sits like right on the county line between Greenville and Spartanburg.
Thank you. I'm not good with
all those, right? And he's helping coordinate with the county administrator and the mayors, and they're just doing a great job. And so we've taken a couple of visits, both municipality folks and county folks up there, and same idea. What's the plan? And then getting the community support, because I guarantee you do a straw poll right now, there are going to be folks that say, hey, absolutely, Inter 4, that site, let's make that, and we could even do sports complex there, right? Because you've got, with 60 acres on this side, and having some of these amenity things, because you've seen what we've been able to do with our park system, right? Because we heard from the public. This was right when I was coming on council, so I was able to dovetail in and be part of the back end, right, and the votes. But you look at the parks and libraries, people are like, we don't, some people were very adamant we need them, we want them. Some were vehemently opposed.
It's wild.
I know. and it's been great. And we look to expand those. We're expanding the Ashley River Park, and
That was my next question. Was bring
Yeah.
up the parks.
yeah, man, and that work, because it's great to go into Charleston or to go into Berkeley, but we want to do things right at home where we can ride our bikes, right, and get to these places, or take a 5-10 minute car ride,
Or
if
bring your
sands
kayak
track
with
it.
you.
Yeah, bring
Yeah.
your kayak. So yeah, man. So with that penny continuation, right? We had Greenbelt funds that were also, enveloped into that penny to do exactly what we're talking about. Now, these are passive parks, right? We can't use that penny based off the law, right? To make it like a sports, like an active recreation.
Right.
So we bought some additional property behind the library over there and we've got a pedestrian bridge going under to connect the current Ashley River Park to the expansion.
Awesome.
And then there's plans to connect Rosebrook Park that's on down the road
Yeah,
across
yeah,
the
yeah.
river, Ashley River, and more land back towards East Edisto and Beach Hill Elementary.
I love
So
it.
to really make this, and even doing some passive camping and tent camping stuff out there.
Stop it.
Yeah, man.
That gets me excited.
Super. And then, Pine Trace that's about to come online, the urban forest
Yes.
right off of.
I keep forgetting about that one.
Dude, it is amazing. folks, not going to mention any names, but we used to do some bow hunting. So there's deer all in there, because you got the coastal center right there. You've got the roundabout, now the elementary school and Sires Elementary, and then you've got that little community. That's going to also, I forgot to mention that road project, right? That's going to be expanded to 3 lanes, right? And they're going to do the Stallsville Loop. So you know how you come to that light and you have to turn right and then turn left? Well, now it's going to go straight, and behind that little where Hoover or the car dealership sits right there, and there's that big, beautiful oak. So you're going to turn before that big oak, and it's going to dump out behind the Food Lion Shopping Center.
Oh, that's nice.
So you're going to eliminate that one light right there at the Waffle House. So again, the idea is to keep traffic moving, flowing, right? So that's going to be a huge enhancement. And that road project should be, you talk about dates, that either spring of 26 or fall of 26. I can't remember.
Wow, that's soon.
Yeah, soon. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So that'd be a nice enhancement to that road project. But that park is slated to open late summer, early fall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for
That's
Pine
fast,
Trace.
too.
Yeah. And there's a kayak launch there. You can fish. There's a dog park. There's a frisbee golf. We're going to hope to do a 5K there because the trail system. I mean, it's awesome. And looking to do more. We just spent some Greenbelt funds, Brosnan Forest. And we had a first reading, purchasing some land up behind Brosnan Forest to do a park in that end of the county.
Dang.
Also using some Greenbelt funds, working with the State Forestry Commission out in Givans, going towards Givans State Park.
Yeah.
About, I think it was like maybe 6, I can't remember, so don't quote me the number exactly. 300 to 600 acres. I can't remember which one. But yeah, there would be an outdoor gun range out there.
That's great.
Yep. They would do controlled hunts. I mean, again, doing some things like that. We're bringing some money to the table, the Forestry Commission, Low Country Conservation Group, to conserve and bring more outdoor activities, parks, because our community wants that. And we go to different places, man. We're like, man, I'd love to have that. And so we hear the community, and we want to do more of that. For sure.
That is amazing. I love to hear it. That makes me really, really excited.
Yeah, man, it is. It's fun.
The last thing I want to see is not too much to crap on Charlotte so much, but it's a big city with the skyscrapers everywhere. Now I haven't been there too much. I don't know how many parks and whatnot they have, but that is, I think, one of the main concerns a lot of the locals have. We don't want Somerville to become like an industrial complex of skyscrapers.
No.
Which is great, 'cause I don't think it ever would be. I don't know, I think we have a building
a
cap.
height ordinance.
Yeah.
yeah. So there, yeah. And again, you want that Southern charm, right?
Yeah.
And the quaintness of Somerville, and that's the town of Somerville has the Board of Architectural Review, and so and of course town council to make sure that but there has to be a comprehensive plan, not saying no all the time, but what is the look and feel? What are the architectural standards? Like Charleston's done, right?
Yeah.
They've got some things going up. If you look at East Bay, right? Have you seen those new condos and stuff?
Not
and it
the
looks
new
like
ones.
they've got.
Oh,
man,
no,
beautiful.
yes, I have.
Where it looks like they've got carriage storage underneath. Like the old horse and carriage. It's beautiful. The condos look like what it would be in the antebellum South, right? And the old historic homes that you would see on, the Battery.
Yeah.
It's
beautiful.
With a little modern spin, and again, it's balancing that. There's a lot of cave people in Somerville. What I mean by that is citizens against virtually everything.
Yeah. That's a good word.
You can't put your head in the sand, because the progress will pass you by. And then, I'm not going to name names, but you can ride up 61 and you start seeing a few towns that sadly, business left and the town's dying on the vine,
Yeah.
And, like I said, there's great people living and working and playing in Somerville and, and I think that the right mindset. And again, it's all about communication, going back to education, right, that we talked about. Keeping folks informed, answering the call, answering the questions, doing the public informational meetings. Now, if you choose not to get involved or hear or come to or get online, because we're living in the information age that they're taught, right? Actually, probably more information that we can even process in our brains, but it's out there. And just being willing to, put it out there, speak truth, speak candidly. I was just on the phone with the architect. He was talking about wanting to do a project up on the intersection of 95 and 26, right?
Yep.
Wants to do industrial and residential. And I was like, residential makes no sense. You're 10 miles from St. George, 8 miles from Holly Hill. That adds to congestion. Plus, there's no water or sewer up there's no fire. There's no amenities. You're putting more people on the road. Yes, you're talking about workforce housing. I get that. We want that. And we've got a project at the end of Orangeburg near the airport specifically for workforce housing that's going to be, but you're not, if you put it up against, side-by-side comparison for picture communities, we want this to be the template. But that back to the project up there on the interstate, again, you're putting more people on the roads because you're not going to put a grocery store because there's not enough people to support it. You're not going to put, a fitness center because there's not enough people to support it, even if it is a 500, But again, I'd rather hear that on the front end. It's not likely. You can't get there. So they can focus their time and talents and energy on the industrial side, right? Because you're right there I said, that makes the most sense for that property.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, just having that, those kind of conversation, Caleb, and, communicating, right? Over-communicating.
Oh, yeah. All right, last question.
Yeah, man.
You have listed so much that you do in the educational world and with the county.
Yeah.
And I love this because I feel like this is a nice blanket question, but I'm just curious. How do you manage having a life at all? You have so much going on. And then you're talking about going and playing golf and then going to Top Golf. And I'm like, how? When? Yeah. When are you doing these things?
Man, thank you. Yeah, you see this gray hair, right? So
yeah, but you're a silver fox. Don't even come at me like.
Well, thank you. I tell people all the time, I'll take it in color. Yeah, as long as I got it. So, but honestly, man, just like anything else, you talk about the discipline and the structure, and surrounding yourself with good people that have helped me, like the Wesley Donahues or this guy Danny Alagan, and then I have a small group of men. We meet every Wednesday to pray and read the Word and study what God says. So I try to prioritize, map out my day. every day, get up about the same time, 5:30, 5:40, right? Start the day and, map out. And then, of course, the week. So you've got your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But planning, right, that time for yourself, right? Make sure I can get to the gym. Make sure, I carve out an hour or two that I can devote to my kids because I know somebody's going to need a ride. Somebody's going to need something,
Yeah.
because I can't, if I don't schedule the time, then, either I'm managing the calendar
Mm-hmm.
or like your finances, or they're managing you.
Yeah.
So that and working and getting to and being humble enough to say, hey man, I need some help. How do I get, and Caleb, what's super important is being able to say no. Being, selfish with your time, right? And what's a non-negotiable is making sure you got that time with your family. And I'm not always saying I get it right, but and of course, being my wife, being able to plan and say, hey, look, we got to commit this time for dinner. These are, times sacred that we're not going to give up. We're going to say no to the XYZ, right? Even if we get invited to something super cool and fun, nope, we've carved this out. And that sets the message and the tone for the kids. Like they know, hey, this is important. We're making time. Now, if we all collectively, like last night, during the dinner time that we try to carve out at least 4 nights a week, right, with the family, well, we'll take the family to Top Golf. Right. So, okay, cool. We do that because, man, because you can, I've always heard, if the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy.
Oh.
So, have to be really on guard, on alert to not get too busy, and that is the same thing. Like when you said this, making this time for you and I to have, I knew that was important. I wanted this time to connect with you because we talk all the time, but you getting to know me better, that's important, for me.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. So I appreciate it exponentially because again, you have that, the discipline in your schedule so you can do things like this. So because these are the moments, right, that we'll remember this, even though it's it's down, and all, time, archive, so to speak.
Yeah.
But in our memory too, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, it's building the personal relationship with people in the community.
All right, absolutely.
And I love that. And then I can share what you told me today with other people I have on here, which I'm excited about.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
That's
you'll
great.
have at least one sound bite.
I think I've got plenty in there.
Okay. Very cool.
I love that. My non-negotiable for me is my Sundays are solely for me. I like to have some kind of time to prepare for the week ahead if I know it's going to be a busy one.
Yeah.
But I failed to do this for a long time. Like I was just busy, and I would let myself be busy. And if I didn't plan things accordingly or wasn't disciplined with my schedule, something would just fill in the free space, and then I would never have free time, and I just burn out all the time.
God.
It was awful.
Absolutely.
So my Sundays, guaranteed whatever I want to do.
Right.
And I have my hands in like 1,800 different pots of my own choosing. So usually I'm quite busy, but it's self-enjoyment busy.
Right.
Yeah, so it's different.
Re-energizing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and that's important.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, totally. And that's, and for us, that's biblical. The Sabbath, honor it, keep it holy. Don't do the things that you would normally. You have 6 days to work, right? Hey, and that's kind of the thing for us too. Like, hey, for we not because we have to, but because we want to. Go to church on Sunday. The meal after church. I mean, that I love that. I look forward to that so much, just with because it's that time for us as a family. Sometimes when we have to wait for 30 minutes to an hour for a restaurant because everybody in Somerville is going to lunch, but we're about ready to choke each other. But it's still that time where we can, okay, let's enjoy this. Like, hey, to, like you said, prep for the week.
Mm-hmm.
This is our hour to catch up, to catch our breath, and to prep for the week ahead or the month ahead or what have you. So, yeah, man, I think it's awesome that you do that for sure.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate the time.
It's been a good conversation.
Yeah.
I feel jazzed right now.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and the coffee conversation, I mean,
The true
dude,
coffee
it's
does
great.
help.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
That was a solid hour, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, everyone, for listening. If you are thinking about moving to Somerville, the community will accept you. Just bear with the traffic while we're getting everything put together.
Please. No kidding.
All right, until next time, my friend.
All right, brother. Looking forward to the next conversation.